In this video, we'll be taking a look at 4 NBA games happening on December 29, 2025, and providing you with free team picks and total picks for each one of those games, so 8 picks in total. Welcome back to Cash Out Sports. Let's dive right into it. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe and to click the bell icon to get notified as soon as these videos get released, so that you have more time to plan out your bets as we provide these videos on a daily basis. I can guarantee that you'll have all the important information that you'll need on these 4 NBA games after fully watching this video. One more thing before we start, if you would like to gain access to our best exclusive sports picks to take your journey to the next level, then check out our Patreon in the link down below where we offer our best single picks, parlay picks, and much more. Now let's get started. Milwaukee Bucks versus Charlotte Hornets. The Bucks are still not quite at full strength, with Gary Trent Jr. and Taurean Prince sidelined again, but that has kind of become their normal state lately. On the other side, the Hornets are down Grant Williams, Con Knuepel, Mason Plumlee, and Ryan Kalkbrenner, so both teams are juggling rotations, just in slightly different ways. Even with that, the big shift here is that Antetokounmpo is back on the floor. The Bucks have not looked like a well-oiled machine recently, far from it, but getting their star back and beating the Bulls on Saturday gives them something real to lean on. Sometimes one solid win with your main guy returning does more for confidence than a whole week of good practice, and this feels like one of those spots. What really sticks out is the number. The Hornets sitting as only 3-point underdogs is a bit puzzling if you are not fully sold on their recent mini-surge. A couple of nice wins in 1 month can make headlines, but it does not suddenly erase who a team has been over a larger sample, especially when they are still missing multiple rotation players. Here's the thing, the Bucks are as healthy as they have been in a while around Antetokounmpo, and that alone changes how teams have to defend them. You also get the emotional angle that people quietly care about. Antetokounmpo stirred things up with that last-second dunk against the Bulls, and if that moment signals a more aggressive, almost annoyed version of him going forward, Milwaukee becomes a much tougher team to step in front of. A locked-in superstar can flip the mood of a whole locker room, and if he is pushing, role players usually follow. So if we assume we are seeing that edge from him for a stretch now, the Bucks suddenly have room to put together a little run, especially against opponents like Charlotte that are still trying to prove their ceiling. History between these teams leans the same way. The Bucks have taken 8 of the last 10 meetings with the Hornets, which does not decide this game by itself, but it backs up the idea that Milwaukee usually has the higher floor in this matchup. Charlotte still feels like a group that needs to show and keep showing it against better competition before you fully trust them in tighter pricing spots like this. As our first pick for this matchup, the Milwaukee Bucks to win and cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. The Bucks are putting up 113 points per game on 48.7% shooting, which is pretty efficient, especially when you factor in that they have not always been at full strength. They are also giving up 116.2 points on 47% shooting, so they are not exactly clamping down on anyone. Their three-point shooting at 39.7% is a real weapon, but the 72.5% at the free throw line leaves some value on the table. Grabbing 40 rebounds per game, they are solid on the glass, not overwhelming, which can matter if long misses create extra possessions. Charlotte's numbers push the same general way. The Hornets average 115.4 points on 45.5% shooting and allow 118.8 points on 48.9% shooting. So they score a bit more than Milwaukee and also surrender even more. From deep, they sit at 35.9%, which is decent enough to punish soft perimeter coverage, and their 81.6% at the free throw line means they usually cash in when they get fouled. They also pull down 44.4 rebounds per game, a meaningful edge on the boards that can translate into second chance points and extra possessions. Put together, you have one team that shoots the ball very efficiently, especially from 3, but leaks on defense, and another that plays at a similar offensive level while allowing almost 120 points per night with high opponent efficiency. Honestly, that combination is usually a recipe for runs in both directions, quick swings in momentum, and a scoreboard that keeps moving. If the Hornets' rebounding edge shows up and the Bucks' shooting holds anywhere near those averages, this sets up as a game where both offenses find enough rhythm to push the total higher rather than lower. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. Phoenix Suns versus Washington Wizards. The Suns are still short-handed here, with Grayson Allen and Jalen Green ruled out and Ryan Dunn sitting in that gray area as questionable. The Wizards are dealing with their own absences, with Keyshawn George, Corey Kispert, and Cam Whitmore all sidelined. So both teams are patching lineups, but the market still has Phoenix as a clear road favorite, which fits the idea that the Suns are starting to warm up again. Washington has shown some real life in their last 2 wins though, and that does matter because playing with confidence can cover up a lot of small cracks for a while. Let me explain why this still leans toward Phoenix on the side. The Wizards absolutely deserve credit for that recent uptick, but asking them to match that same energy on the second night of a back-to-back is a big ask. Fatigue does not always show up right away, but it creeps into defensive rotations, closeouts, and late fourth-quarter possessions, especially for a team that has not exactly been known for its defensive consistency. Meanwhile, the Suns have been building some rhythm, piece by piece, and this is the kind of spot where that steady improvement can show up against a group that is fighting both schedule and personnel. If George does miss, that only stretches Washington a bit thinner on the wing, and it quietly puts more pressure on their main creators to carry even more of the load. So while the Wizards' recent form is encouraging, the more stable side in this matchup, with extra rest and a clearer path to repeating their level, still looks like Phoenix. As our first pick for this matchup, the Phoenix Suns to win and cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. The Suns are averaging 114.9 points per game on 46.8% shooting, which is a solid scoring clip with decent efficiency. They are allowing 113.9 points on 47.5% shooting, so their defense gives plenty back and does not really drag games into ugly, low-scoring territory. From 3, Phoenix is hitting 36.4%, which keeps defenses honest and can lead to quick scoring bursts when shooters get comfortable. They are at 79.7% from the free throw line, which means trips to the stripe usually translate into steady points instead of wasted chances. They also grab 41.9 rebounds per game, giving them enough on the glass to create a reasonable number of second chance looks without slowing things down too much. On the Wizards side, the profile is even more tilted toward high-scoring outcomes. Washington is putting up 112.6 points per game on 46.3% shooting, so they can score at a respectable rate. The big red flag, and the reason totals with this team get interesting, is the 126.1 points per game they allow on 47.5% shooting. That is a huge number to be giving up nightly, and it usually signals a defense that struggles to get consistent stops, especially over 4 quarters. They shoot 36% from beyond the arc, which is close enough to Phoenix to suggest both teams can trade threes if the game opens up. From the free throw line, they sit at 75%, not elite but good enough that fouls still turn into a steady stream of points. With 45.6 rebounds per game, the Wizards also create plenty of extra possessions, which can inflate totals when both sides are already comfortable scoring. Put together, you get a Suns team that scores efficiently and does not shut the door defensively, paired with a Wizards team that plays in games where their own offense is serviceable but their defense leaks heavily. Honestly, that is usually the recipe for long stretches of up and down play, quick runs, and a scoreboard that keeps moving rather than stalling. If Phoenix maintains its shooting levels and Washington's defense looks like what the numbers suggest, while still putting up their usual scoring output, this matchup leans toward a higher total rather than a grind. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. Orlando Magic versus Toronto Raptors. The Magic are still short-handed, missing Jalen Suggs, Gaga Bitadze, Moritz Wagner, and Franz Wagner, while the Raptors only have Jakob Poeltl ruled out. That is a pretty big difference in terms of how many core pieces are on the shelf, and you can feel it in how steady each team looks night to night. Orlando has not exactly been firing on all cylinders lately, but that comeback win over the Nuggets gave them a real jolt of confidence. Winning a game like that sticks with a group, especially when you have been grinding through injuries and patchwork rotations. They come in here as clear favorites, which makes sense when you remember the Raptors are coming off a win over the Warriors just last night. Let me explain why the story gets a little more complicated once you move past the opening number. The Magic probably should be favored, with the rest advantage and their overall body of work, but those injuries to key players keep showing up in their results. You get stretches where they look like a firm playoff team, then a few minutes where the offense stalls or the defense loses a cutter because regular roles are shuffled. That is the cost of missing multiple rotation guys for an extended stretch. Toronto, on the other hand, is about as healthy as it has been in some time with Barrett back in the mix, and that alone stabilizes their wing rotation. They are also coming off that nice overtime win over the Warriors, which is exactly the sort of game that can feel like a small turning point for a locker room that has been searching for a spark. There is always a risk of a bit of fatigue after an overtime game, sure, but there is also a real emotional lift from pulling one out like that against a high-profile opponent. The matchup history tilts gently toward the Raptors' side of the argument too. The Magic already have 8 road losses this season, so they are not bulletproof away from home. On top of that, they have dropped 3 straight games against Toronto, which quietly suggests the Raptors have been comfortable with this opponent recently, even through some of their own struggles. So when you put it all together, with the Magic still thin in key spots, the Raptors enjoying home court, and that emotional boost from last night, it is not hard to imagine Toronto building on that effort rather than immediately crashing back down. It feels a bit like one of those spots where the perceived gap between the teams might be just a touch wider than what the actual performance on the floor could show. As our first pick for this matchup, the Toronto Raptors to cover the spread as underdogs is our full game side pick. The Magic are averaging 117.2 points on 46.8% shooting, so they score plenty and do it with respectable efficiency. They are allowing 114.8 points on 47.8% shooting, which means their defense is solid in stretches but not exactly strangling opposing offenses. From the perimeter, Orlando is hitting 34.3% from beyond the arc, which is serviceable but not exactly flamethrower territory. They are at 78.9% from the free throw line, so when they get to the stripe, they usually turn those trips into points at a decent clip. On the glass, they are grabbing 45 rebounds per game, and that kind of board work can slow things a bit with controlled possessions, but it can also limit easy second chance scoring for opponents. The Raptors' numbers look a little different but still land in a range that suggests competitive, not wildly free-scoring, games. They are averaging 113.5 points on 47.7% shooting, so even if they score slightly less than Orlando, their efficiency is right there. Defensively, they are allowing 111.7 points on 46.8% shooting, which is actually a touch cleaner than the Magic's defensive line. From deep, Toronto is shooting 35.9% from 3, which gives them just enough spacing to keep defenses honest without turning every night into a three-point barrage. They are at 77.2% from the free throw line, again solid, and that usually means their foul shots neither dramatically drag a total down nor inflate it. On the boards, they are pulling in 43.5 rebounds per game, slightly fewer than Orlando, which quietly lines up with a game that has a controlled tempo more often than a track meet. When you blend those profiles, you get 2 teams that score well enough but also play defenses that are not complete sieves, with shooting splits that lean more toward balance than extreme fireworks. Honestly, that kind of statistical mix often nudges games into that middle scoring band, where there are runs, but they are followed by stretches of half-court offense, set plays, and some grinding possessions. With both sides capable of getting stops and neither trending as a constant high-octane pace machine, it makes sense to lean toward a slightly lower scoring outcome rather than expecting a wild shootout. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. Golden State Warriors versus Brooklyn Nets. The Warriors are still missing Seth Curry, Al Horford, and DeAnthony Melton, while the Nets have Haywood Highsmith ruled out. So both teams are a bit short, but Golden State definitely feels thinner in terms of recognizable names sitting. Golden State is walking into this one on the second leg of a back-to-back, and that already tilts the setup. They went to overtime on Sunday in a 141-127 loss at Toronto, so those extra minutes are sitting in their legs as they head into Brooklyn. They are sitting at a respectable record of 3-3 in these back-to-back situations, which is fine on paper, but the context matters here because this particular spot adds travel and an overtime tax. Then there is the home and road split, which is hard to ignore. The Warriors have been poor away from home, with a 6-12 record on the road compared to a much stronger 10-4 at home. You do not need a spreadsheet to feel the difference between those two environments, and it shows up in late-game execution, focus on defense, and how sharp the role players look. Outside of Stephen Curry, Jimmy Butler, and Draymond Green, the rest of this Warriors roster just does not inspire a ton of confidence in this write-up. Brandon Podziemski has cooled off after his earlier bump, and Jonathan Kuminga is described as being completely out of the rotation, which cuts into their athletic upside. On a night when tired legs are already a concern, that makes it even harder to trust their depth. Brooklyn, meanwhile, shows up with a profile that feels almost opposite in terms of current vibe. The record may not blow anyone away, but recent form is strong. The Nets are on a 3-game winning streak, and that run includes a 15-point win over the same Raptors team that just beat the Warriors. They followed that with an 8-point win over Philadelphia and a 16-point victory over Minnesota, which reads like a team figuring a few things out instead of stumbling. Michael Porter Jr. has been framed as the headliner for this stretch, sitting at 25.8 points and 7.5 rebounds per game in this context. He has been especially hot this month, opening December with scoring lines of 35, 33, 35, and 34 points, then rolling into a stretch of 28, 24, 28, and 27 in the last 4, with double-doubles in 2 of his last 3 outings. When a scorer is in that kind of rhythm, it simplifies the offense for everyone else, since they can play off his gravity. The Warriors do come into this matchup with at least a touch of momentum from some recent performances, but if you zoom out a bit, it is actually Brooklyn that has the better form overall. They have won 7 of their last 10, and they have covered the spread in 8 of those 10, which is not some tiny blip. This is quietly the best stretch of basketball the Nets have played in a while, and the fact they are rested here while Golden State is not makes things even more interesting. On paper, you can argue the Warriors should be favored because of their name value and star power, and that is hinted at in the original angle. But they are described as an older team coming off an overtime game, with a 6-12 straight-up mark on the road, and that combination does not exactly scream trust. The Nets are at home, in form, and playing with confidence, and there is a realistic path for them to keep this one very close or even win it outright. This is the first meeting between these teams this season, and while the Warriors are identified as correctly favored, the lean still goes toward Brooklyn, especially given how good the Nets looked in that big win over the Timberwolves on Saturday and the expectation of big nights from Porter Jr. and Thomas. So in a spot that could go either way, grabbing the home team catching points feels more appealing than laying them with a tired road favorite. As our first pick for this matchup, the Brooklyn Nets to cover the spread as underdogs is our full game side pick. The Warriors are averaging 114.6 points per game on 45.2% shooting, so they can certainly score. They are allowing 112.4 points on 46.2% shooting, which means their defense is not shutting teams down, but it is not completely falling apart either. From three-point range, Golden State is hitting 36%, a solid mark that keeps the floor spaced and occasionally produces those familiar bursts where everything seems to fall. At the free throw line, they sit at 81.7%, which is strong and usually helps stabilize their scoring. They are grabbing 44 rebounds per game, a number that suggests they can close possessions decently and control the glass enough to prevent a constant stream of easy second chance points. Brooklyn comes in with a different scoring profile. The Nets are averaging 109.1 points per game on 44.7% shooting, which is adequate but not especially explosive. Defensively, they are allowing 114.2 points on 48.6% shooting, so opponents have been scoring efficiently against them. From beyond the arc, Brooklyn is shooting 34.5%, which is a bit on the streaky side. They are connecting on 78.4% of their free throws, which keeps them from wasting trips to the stripe but does not create a massive scoring edge. On the boards, they are pulling down 40.7 rebounds per game, fewer than Golden State, and that can quietly limit how many extra possessions they generate. When you lay those numbers side by side, you get one team with a decent offense and respectable defense and another with a modest offense and a defense that gives up points on efficient shooting. At first glance, that might nudge you toward expecting a higher scoring game, especially with Golden State's shooting and Brooklyn's defensive lapses. But there are a couple of factors that naturally tug the other way. The Warriors are coming off an overtime road game, which often shows up in shorter bursts on offense, slower pace, and more reliance on half-court sets rather than constant running. Tired legs can dull jump shooting a bit, and that matters with a team that leans heavily on perimeter production. At the same time, Brooklyn's own offensive averages are not sky-high, and while they can certainly score, their numbers suggest more steady output than constant fireworks. So you end up with a matchup where one side has the ability to score but might be dulled by the schedule, and the other side typically plays to totals that are inflated more by defensive issues than by an elite offense consistently blowing the roof off. Honestly, that mix can land games in a range where scoring is solid but not wildly above expectations, especially if the pace slows and both teams spend more time grinding through half-court possessions. In that scenario, a slightly lower outcome than the projected number feels more reasonable than banking on both offenses fully stretching their ceilings for 4 quarters. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. That's all for now, so if you have any other games you would like reviewed, then leave a comment down below with the game you would like analyzed, subscribe to our channel, leave a like on this video, and we'll get to it as soon as we possibly can. We would also love to hear your opinion on the picks presented to you in this video, whether you agree or disagree with them, so leave a comment down below and do let us know.